All right, let's get the difficult stuff out of the way, and then we've got some fun stuff. At least we thought it would be fun coming into the break to throw at John McMullen as he joins us.
He may not think so.
But, John's a flexible guy. He's like water. He'll mold into whatever the situation is to make it work. So let's bring in what? No, I didn't even know that came from Bruce Lee. Is that some sort of phrase that was born out of the wisdom of Bruce Lee and Eastern philosophies?
Like water?
No, that's originally from Bruce Lee. That's
Enter
the
the Dragon.
Be like water, my friend.
Okay.
You flow with things. Water when it comes into the cup, it becomes like the same shape of the cup.
Water can also be devastating.
When I'm asked, that is true. It can definitely deteriorate, not just in an erosion standpoint. When I'm asked to define in human form what John McMullen is, I start with Ric Flair and end with Bruce Lee. I think that's fair, right, John?
I think that's tremendously fair. I don't know any other way you could possibly go.
What happened? Yesterday, it was just the first, and now we've added Bruce Lee to this. It started out with Ric Flair, and now by tomorrow will be Alexander the Great. By Friday, I don't know who you'll be at this point.
Yeah, well, hey, you brought it up. I'm just going molding like water or
Touché,
whatever.
my friend.
All right, let's look at the latest. What have you learned in maybe the last 5, 10, 15 minutes about this Carson Wentz situation that you might not have known before Doug Peterson broke the news today earlier this morning?
Well, I think it's pretty evident that this team and the players expect Nick Foles to play on Sunday, and there's been sort of dueling reports from the NFL Network that says there's a possibility the Eagles are going to shut down Carson Wentz for the season versus the AP, who says it's not even definite he's out on Sunday. I think it's definite he's out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from that point, the Eagles look at the landscape and say, well, if they lose that football game, are they still in it? Technically, they have to be. So I don't think that's part of the conversation. I think the conversation is whether this team believes that there's good things that can come from Carson Wentz playing the final 3 games of the season. I can't believe we're even having this conversation because it seems to me, and I was joking with some of the other reporters, that instead of the American flag here over the NovaCare complex, we're going to put up a white flag because I don't know what's going on with this team.
Well,
there's no reason to surrender. Brandon Graham, I was just talking to him in a locker room. He said 6 seed, baby. There's no reason to shut down Carson Wentz, but it seems like this team is thinking about it.
All right, so how much of that is the injury, a nagging injury that he's been dealing with, has just reached the head where at this point you're risking long-term damage to the body of a quarterback? And you're right, where you are in the standings and what you're doing shouldn't really impact you. And maybe Carson is out there in 2 weeks if this team is locked into a 4 seed or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like that thinking of, Gil and I get into it a lot with the Sixers about everything being the future. And I don't even like that in the NBA. But in football, I think it's ludicrous because things change so quickly.
But if it's been nagging him for months, right? Can we assume that this has been nagging him along with the knee?
It came up in October before the Giants game is the first time he sat out. Now they called it rest, and then the next 2 weeks they did put the back issue on the injury report. So he's been dealing with a little bit of an issue for a while, and that might explain the difference. Look, he looked like a pretty mobile guy against Washington, and he didn't look nearly as mobile in Dallas. And that kind of defines a back injury. Sometimes you can move a little bit better, and some days you're not feeling as well. But this whole mentality of, he's going to be our quarterback for the next 10 years, which is true, and you can push things off in the NFL. This league is so fluid, and you see it the year to year, the drastic changes. If you got an opportunity to make the playoffs, you make the playoffs, and then you go on from there. because you don't know what the landscape is going to be next season, never mind 3 seasons down the line or 4 seasons down the line. Now, if you think this back injury is going to cause him to re-tear his ACL, I don't know how you could possibly know that. I don't think anybody's Nostradamus. So there's been a lot of strange medical questions with the Eagles this year, and a lot of people have pointed that they changed their medical team, which is weird, coming off winning a Super Bowl. So all of these questions enter into it, but this came out of nowhere, and it's certainly a weird story that continues to develop.
Having said that, John, I don't know how you could think, not meaning you directly, I don't know how you could think that it's anything but this has been going on for months. They've didn't want to make it a big deal. He was able to play through it. I think it answers a lot of the questions I've been asking you the past couple of days. What's up with Wentz? What's up with his body language? What's up with his frustration? What's up with his inconsistencies? I think this answers all of the questions that we've all been trying to defend him about. And it's clear that they were saying, in my mind, let's go into this Dallas game because this is for the season. And if we win or lose, we'll evaluate his performance. We'll see if we win or lose. They lose. He didn't play very well in the first half particularly. And here they are. They make a decision back of house behind closed doors. We're shutting this guy down. It doesn't look like we're getting much of anywhere, despite all the facts of anything can happen. It's the NFL. They can still get the 6th seed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, if you think winning the NFC East in this particular season means more and having one home game as opposed to being the 6th seed and not having that home game means that much more, you could spin it that way, certainly. I don't necessarily agree with it. We've seen other teams in the past, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, the Giants, and Eli Manning have gone the wild card route after getting hot at the right time. My issue from the perspective of getting into the dance is I don't see a dominant team. I don't see a team that is unbeatable.
New Orleans at home?
New Orleans at home is the closest, no question about it. If it's got to go through the Superdome, I think that's as close to a lock as you can get in either conference. But I don't look at that team as just a dominant juggernaut who can't play poorly on a given Sunday and lose a football game. I certainly think that way about the Rams, partially because they don't have a real home field advantage in Los Angeles. The Bears, I think, would be the most dominant team if they had a competent quarterback, and they don't. So I don't see any foe that is unbeatable. Look, maybe the Eagles are going to wait and see if Nick Foles can again catch lightning in a bottle, upset the Rams, and then maybe Carson Wentz is back. I doubt it. I think they're shutting him down for the season. And unless it's a much more serious injury that's being led on, I don't get it because it's erring on the side of caution. And I think that's just dumb in the National Football League. You talk to every coach, you talk to every general manager, and I've talked to a lot of them over the years. If you're healthy in this league, you play. That's the way it's always been. One of the reasons why is because there's only 16 games a year. Another reason why is because what I just said, this is a league where things change so quickly. You're assuming you're going to be in position to make the playoffs next year, the year after. That's not necessarily the case. We have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea what the health status is going to be next year. That's why it's so important when you're in a position like the Eagles were last year to seize it and win the Super Bowl, which they were able to do. And I'll bring that up as well because I think there's a level of that in the rearview mirror and saying, you know what, we won one, so we can be cautious. And I don't think that's the way to become the New England Patriots and that new normal that Doug Peterson spoke of that has not come to fruition.
John McMullen is joining us on 97.3 ESPN Sports Bash. looking at the trickle-down effect, the domino effect that might happen from Carson Wentz being shut down. So let's go on, I don't know if it's safe or not, the assumption that we won't see Carson Wentz for the rest of the regular season. If they lose to the Rams, which seems like more and more of a lock with Foles and this defense that was out there for 300 snaps against the Cowboys, then aren't you looking at not bringing guys back like Jordan Hicks if he missed another day, or Sidney Jones if he misses another day, or Tim Jernigan? I mean, aren't we looking at anybody who's on the fringe of returning, or even on the other side playing through some serious injuries, might be shut down as well?
Well, you would think so, and it would be kind of hard to, ask those players to play through nicks and bruises, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying we're going to be cautious with this guy, but you go out and risk your career, which is, if you look at Jordan Hicks specifically, there's a guy who played through an ankle injury last year and felt he was favoring things to the point that's why he tore his Achilles. And now he's got this calf injury. He's a free agent to be. And if he's healthy, or at least on the fringe of being healthy enough, if you were a legit playoff contender and, say, the second or third seed, maybe he'd be playing through it. But how do you ask him to play through it now? I don't know. So my point to that is, if this is the way the Eagles are going to go, this is probably going to get ugly over the next 3 weeks in that locker room, because they're going to be asking certain guys to do things that they're not asking certain other guys to do.
John, I know we're going to get a little deeper into the game itself tomorrow. Then, of course, Friday is going to be all about the matchups and the strategy that, I don't know, Nick Foles and this offense can apply to beat that Rams defense. But I did want to spend, both of us wanted to spend a couple minutes with you, and not just the John McMullen football mind, but the mind itself, almost like a sub-segment of this segment inside the mind of McMullen. How do you think? We don't have any imaging or any music for it, but what do you think?
Well,
you give it a go with us?
I think that. Sure, I'm
just basically what's inside that head of yours.
All right. So I'm sure you saw this story because you catch everything that comes your way. Steph Curry said, and his brother Seth thinks it's a joke, but whatever. We're not here to debate if Seth or Steph were serious or not. But Steph comes out and says he doesn't believe that we landed on the moon. So what's the biggest conspiracy theory ever that John McMullen has bought into?
That I bought into?
Yes. So
or that you can buy into.
Yes.
Well,
that you would champion. That you would say, no, listen, yes, there was a second, third, and fourth gunman, and they were all over the grassy knoll. There's something that you could subscribe to that is a known conspiracy in the history of mankind, and maybe even before that.
Well, I think it starts with Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landing.
Well, do you believe
that's a
that?
good one.
Second, no, I'm not insane. I'm not an insane.
I'm not insane.
But
that's the problem.
That's
the question, John.
We want to know what we want to know.
I can't buy into conspiracy theory. If you point to Kennedy, I would point to, yeah, okay. Then let's think about how divided our political landscape is, where both sides hate each other to the point that they would do anything to destroy the other side. And we're going to pretend that every single president since then, Democrat, Republican, has kept the conspiracy under locks, and that it wasn't the way it went down. That the problem with conspiracies, in all of them, is they don't make sense. So if you're not insane on some level, you can't buy into any of them.
So you don't buy into even a fringe conspiracy that
a smaller scale. How about a smaller scale?
Like
conspiracy?
don't drink the tap water because it's fluoride filled.
Because this will set people fire. So if you want to consider this a conspiracy, and you bring up the term global warming.
Okay.
Not that I don't believe in global warming, but I think that the science is very early in the process, and it's not definitive of how much man contributes to global warming. Mm-hmm. So I do think there is a group that would like to take advantage of global warming to make money.
Well, yes.
So a conspiracy.
Okay.
Then there's a conspiracy.
Okay, so not necessarily mind control by the government is being issued through flu shots.
No.
Okay.
No,
what about
I'm not
mind
buying
control
that.
in general? No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
In fact, guarantee that governments want to make money. So that's not really conspiracy. They want to take advantage of people's.
Yep.
Let's be as kind as possible. Lack of education.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the conspiracy.
There's plenty of evidence for that too. But
we were having this
digress.
conversation, John, before you came on about how Ryan Rothstein and John McMullen sitting at the end of the bar would be a fascinating conversation, and how you could plug and play topics where. And
whoa, hold on.
I'm paraphrasing Ryan here.
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing Ryan, right? He'll correct me, but basically,
No, you're on point.
You would be walking circles around Ryan with a lot of stuff because we were talking about referencing Beowulf and other, maybe not even obscure, but pieces of literature.
Intellectual
Exactly.
references, and I said, man, if me and McMullen were at the bar together, I would not be able to keep up. I would be embarrassed after 20 to 30 minutes. And Eitan said, well, what's a conversation or what's a topic that you could potentially embarrass him? And we all had to think long and hard about that.
Figured we'd throw it at you. You'd be the best person to answer this.
That could embarrass me. Oh, wow.
Well, maybe
Well,
not
not embarrassed.
but
That's
just-
a negative
just-
way to put
Just
it.
to the point in which you were clearly the listener in the conversation, not the talker.
It would definitely be pop culture related because.
You're pretty up on that stuff, John.
Yeah, well, I am.
Like, I have no doubt you
level.
could give me a track-by-track analysis on the new Meek Mill album.
See, no, I can't. I can give you a track-by-track analysis on early hip-hop, but I stopped like 10 years ago.
Why am I not surprised at all
Yeah.
that you could do that to a T?
Yeah, I can't do anything. Like, I just stopped at a certain point. I said, and it's not just hip-hop, it's pop culture
Sure.
in general.
Yeah.
It's like 10 years ago, I think there's a tipping point in everybody's life where you become more like your father and you go, this is stupid. And it happens to everybody. They don't think it's going to happen, but it happens.
It's like those commercials.
Yeah, and I think I'm at that point where newer things, I just roll my eyes at them. So I would definitely have to listen to pop culture conversations of that happened over the past 10 years, especially involving music. Because music stinks now.
What was your
argument.
what was your like fad, John? Like there's fads now, there's pop culture now, there's music now that's just trendy and doesn't stick. Is there anything that you look back on that you listened to or that you were enjoying, at one point in your life where you say, "Man, I was an idiot"?
Yeah, I can tell you one right off the bat. When I was in college, I had the whole Don Johnson ensemble from Miami Vice.
Wow.
With the pastels.
I'm sure there's pictures, yes.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. No, I've destroyed everything. There's no video or. Now that is embarrassing, and nobody should have to admit that. But as I told Josh off the air, hey, I just get yelled at for 20 minutes by Nelson Aguilar, so it's that kind of day.
What happened?
Let's pile on.
Yeah, tell us what happened, because we didn't want to bring that up, but you just opened up the door.
We made up at the end.
He seems like a good kid. That's reasonable in that sense, but why was he upset?
Yeah. Because I said Golden Tate should play over him, and he's not happy.
So how
with
did he bring
and
that
I said
dialogue
it
to you?
Consistently. He saw me walking in the locker room, and he said, basically, what the hell are you talking about? What have I done that I should not be playing? And I went, hey, because when you get sort of bombarded right off the bat, you're not prepared for it. I go, what are you talking about? And then he said, you said Golden Tate should play over me. And I said, yeah, I believe that. What else am I going to say? I'm not going to lie to him.
Yeah.
But, we made up.
John, it's good to hear.
It's my opinion. I said it's my opinion, and why do you care? Because the coaching staff doesn't agree with me. So,
right.
I don't understand why you care, number one. But yeah,
he's afraid the coaching staff's going to get some ideas from you.
Possibly.
Right.
John,
sorry. He's a sensitive kid, but he's a good guy. So I apologize to him as well.
Give me 30 seconds on how long you wait behind a car that's in the front of the line at a green light before you honk.
Oh, 2 seconds.
2 seconds?
I'm paying attention.
That's fair.
No,
yeah,
but that's. Are we talking 1,000, 1,000, or 2 seconds, meaning like a Philadelphia second, which is.
As soon as that thing turns green,
you're honking.
If you're not going, I'm honking.
All right.
Eitan, you're a New York guy, man. In the city, it's 0.1 seconds.
Yeah, but
if I'm like 4 car lengths behind, I will defer to the person in front of me.
Oh, no,
but
sir.
Then at that point.
That's why self-checkout lines don't work. You never leave it into the hands of human beings.
Well, it's only for a very short period, maybe a 3-4 second deference. And after that, no, you got to. They're clearly not paying attention, and you got to make that light, so you got to make them aware of it.
All right.
That's just common sense.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys.